Do what's up, everybody? I know I'm not just going to get some haters here because I've talked about this in Discord. Ethereum. I'm just telling you what I see, and there's a fundamental bias that I have against Ethereum. I'm going to go into it. Sorry, I know a lot of people have been holding this for a long time, hoping to see things like 20K, get a little 10x on Ethereum, but I just don't see it. In fact, it's hit one of the most most strong is the strongest resistance levels that I've seen in a long time on this big move down. I'm going to talk about that as well. And so entered a short position this week, and so far so good. I like the spike of it. We'll talk about that as well. Got a lot of stuff to talk about this week. Of course, Bitcoin, it's failed its all-time high breakout. Monero, where's the level I'm looking at? And what if not Ethereum? Would I go for Solana? But I don't know if I want to buy that yet. But yeah, and then also some VP volume profile stuff from futures this week. Give me a second for people to filter in, listen to some music, and we're gonna watch this ES thing play out that I put on right at the end of the day. All right, what's up, guys? Futures are open until 1 hour after the U.S. market closes. In case you didn't know that, it's kind of cool because I can sit in here in this trade I put on right at the end of the day that I don't want to carry over the weekend. And I've got the levels marked off. I really am a little, because it made me wait for almost half an hour, I kind of want to let this thing come all the way down to the 50% retracement at 93, but we need a live stream. And I got a lot of stuff to talk about that's not involved equity. So we're gonna put an order at let's see, 05. Yeah, let's see if we get a fill on that 05. All right. So, but I kind of did something provocative. I put in something about Ethereum, and that's what we're here to talk about today. So, what am I talking about? Why am I killing dreams when it comes to Ethereum? I talk to people on my Discord a little bit about this, and I don't tell people that they're wrong when they have a thesis on where price is going to go, because look, we don't know. We don't know. We're doing some astrology for men here. But these levels, the levels I look at, 50% retracements and volume profile levels, they're like a cheat code. And that's where price tends to stop and ideally reverse. And it's the same thing I'm doing on futures today. I'm going to keep looking over at this because I can't not. But so the big trend of Ethereum, and by the way, normally I don't do this, but I've got some fundamental negatives going against it. I'm not trying to paint a picture. Yes, I am, I guess. Ethereum dying. I just want people to be aware that, like, look, you had a great time in Ethereum. Like, I'm not somebody that's going to come on here and talk about, like, okay, this thing's going to moon. It is mooning. I don't think that's where the alpha is. I don't think that's where the gains are. I talked about Monero back when for 2 years now, and I hope people took it because it did go off on a yeet. We'll talk about in just a second, where I'm looking to for the pullback there. It's going to be at a 50%, just the same. But, Ethereum made a lot of people very, very wealthy back in 2020, 2021. And it just has not kept it up. I mean, you didn't get any more out of this last run in 2024. And it's just really losing a lot of market share to Solana. I mean, even Trump, he didn't use Ethereum to make a smart contract coin, did he? He used Solana. And so it's losing that network effect. But in the process of me realizing this, I've been watching this downtrend all the way from December of 2024. And it came down to a major low during the whole tariff FUD when all crypto was down. And now it's recovered, but it's recovered to a key resistance level. And I just have to short it. Sorry. I mean, I know a lot of people want to see their bags go up, but this is just what I see, and this is what I'm trading. And I'm gonna lay out some of the fundamentals that I think people may not be aware of, because when I talk to people about these projects, you got to understand that just because you want it to happen doesn't mean it's going to happen. I heard a quote this week from I think it was from a talk by Howard Marks, bond investor, and he was quoting Charlie Munger, telling him about a Greek philosopher. I think it was a Demosthenes. I'm probably misspelling that wrong, but what a man wishes, he will likely, I can spell, believe. And when I heard that, it's one of those little short bits of wisdom that really kind of sticks with you. It's like, oh, wow, I see that a lot. I see it a lot in the Bitcoin maxi community, where they wish for governments to buy their coin. Why? Because, oh, Bitcoin is better money. Why is it better? Well, it's limited supply. Why is it better than fiat? Because governments can't control it. So why are governments going to buy something that they can't control and make that the standard? Don't know. Just going to be that so that it will moon. And so I see that a lot in the case. And so I need something a little more objective, and I want to look at things in the best way that we can. And by the way, thanks for joining. If you have questions, if you want to tell me I'm wrong, tell me I'm an asshole for doubting that Ethereum is going to moon. Go ahead. And if you got symbols to look at, crypto stocks, etc., we'll look at them in the latter half of the live stream. But just to kind of put together a couple of points. Here are some of the things that I've noticed by reading and keeping apprised of Ethereum. And so there's a lot of stuff working against it. And by the way, normally I am someone that wants to discount the FUD. I want to, if as I've been saying about Bitcoin, with all these great news about Trump going to be buying some Bitcoin with Trump media, strategic Bitcoin reserve, i.e. taxpayer bailouts, and Bitcoin at an all-time high, was an all-time high. We'll talk about that in just a second. All-time highs are not made on bad news, just like lows are not made on good news. But we're not at a low on Ethereum. But we need to be aware that we've had this reprieve to come back to about 2717, or as the case may be, 2750. You've been talking about this for several weeks as it's been sort of banging up against this resistance. And then this week, yesterday, Thursday, we got a spike of it great short opportunity. And so we'll see how it plays out. I mean, who knows? Anything can happen, but more likely something like that. But the things I've noticed fundamentally about Ethereum, broadly, I'm a bit of a boomer. I'm old enough to remember MySpace, but if you're younger and you don't, there was this platform that everyone was on, and they had profiles and pictures, and they would talk to each other and make friends with each other. And that's not Facebook. It was called MySpace. And then at some point, don't remember the exact year, people left MySpace and flocked to Facebook. It was probably around 2003, 2004, 20 years ago, basically. Is you had this exodus from what was the website. And I think actually Fox News, I think whoever owns Rupert Murdoch bought MySpace for billions of dollars at that point. And what a wasted investment, because they thought that was the thing to buy. But Facebook had some better features. It had a better network effect. Network effect, by the way, is where, you know, your friend gets on it, so you get on it, and their friends get on it, and it just kind of expands exponentially. But Ethereum's losing that. I mean, people aren't using Ethereum because it's more expensive, it's slower than Solana to make scam coins. I mean, meme coins. It's just because it exists, just because people hold a lot of it, just because it's there and it was at, you know, the price it was, doesn't mean that it's going to be there forever. And so you're seeing that. And so, you know, a lot of things have been having a problem. I mean, there's a lot of, you know, there's a lot reduced fees, reduced burning. And so that's inflationary, because ideally, I can't remember what it was. They came out with that update maybe a year or two ago that was supposed to burn Ethereum, burn up the supply, and, you know, decrease the inflation of it. But that's, you know, if people aren't using it, then they're not burning it. Means that they're not making that happen. That's what's happening. Nobody's using it. No one's using the platform anymore. By the way, I use ChatGPT to generate these. Sometimes ChatGPT hallucinates, but I think some of the other things I think are really relevant in here are, you know, the staking rewards are declining, and it's just reduced network activity. Going back to the people aren't using it. You know, if people don't use it, then why is the price going to go up? If people don't need to buy Ethereum to make these smart contracts, then there's not going to be demand for it. You need to, if you think I'm wrong, if you think that Ethereum is going to go up because of reasons, I need to hear those reasons. But from where I sit, looking at, you know, the headwinds against it, this is not just FUD. This is because no one talks about this, except unless you go and you dig, like, okay, what's going on with the network? What's going on with the user base? Is it going up? Is it going down? And so, yeah. And then where are people going? They're going to Solana. I don't know if I want to buy Solana yet. That 62% ownership of the insiders, that kind of turns me away to it. So I'm going to sit back and watch, look for a setup on Solana, but I'm not sure I really want to buy that yet. But overall, the crypto market is dominated by the big boy, and that is Bitcoin. And it did a thing. And that thing was one of the most reliable indicators of reversal, which is a false breakout. What's up, Jeremiah? I appreciate you not agreeing with me. I do. I mean, that's the beautiful thing about trading and markets and speculation, is you got a lot of opinions, and nobody's right until they take profit with a win. Otherwise, it still remains numbers on the screen until you make it real. You take it out and you go buy a hamburger with it or something. But tell me why I'm wrong. I laid out the very quick thesis. Network effect is going down. There's less users. There's less fees. There's less network activity. Why is Ethereum going to go up? What is the case for it? So, Jeremiah, yeah, I agree. Well, yes, actually, you're correct. Only traders are using it. And I think a lot of people have this idea that crypto is going to be more. I've known for over a decade, or said for over a decade, I mean, crypto is a solution for which we don't really know the problem. Like we know it's something, but we haven't really found that problem, that that use case, that value add. Really, that's the key. What value does it add? And a lot of people say like, oh, we're so early, bro. Like this is like the start of the internet. Well, no, because if you say that the internet started in, let's say, roughly the 80s, that's like fresh internet. It's just people in college talking to each other on message boards, etc. If that's where you said, then about 15 years into the internet would be roughly about the year 2000, or let's even say 10 years into the internet was 1995. By 1995, people were using email. They had websites. They had lists. You could like a business could put their catalog online and save on printing catalogs, saving money for a business. You could use email instead of mail, saving on stamps. And so there was all these use cases that were generating money, generating wealth, or saving people money. It was very obvious. Well, excuse me, it wasn't very obvious, but we started to see some of these use cases. So what is the use case of crypto? We're 16 years in. What ways is it saving businesses money? I mean, you can save some JPEGs. You can create scam coins and then take people's money, or you can buy it, take up its supply, and make the number go up. But like, what businesses are using it? Like, what person takes some cryptocurrency, uses it in some way, and then they have now made more money than they put in? That's really the key. What use of crypto produces more value than you put in, besides the price going up? In other words, you buy $100 of crypto of any crypto, and you're able to, without someone buying it back for you at a higher price, that's greater fool theory. You're able to do something with it, and then you're able to create value. It's really just a higher price. And so now you know that I'm a big proponent of Monero, because Monero is what people think Bitcoin is. That's the quote. And it's privacy. And I showed last week in my Monero focused bull posting. I had a bull live stream of Monero that, the economist Milton Friedman, which is very libertarian, you like the guy a lot, talked about how there needed to be, back in 1999, when the internet was sort of nascent, really nascent. Nascent means new and fresh and not really fully flushed out. He talked about how there needed to be an e-cash. And one of the things he said about the e-cash was it needed to be private, because that really protects people and really maximizes freedom. Freedom for people to buy and sell what they want. Yes, you're going to have criminals use it, just like they use cash. But unlike cash, I mean, you're starting to say, I heard of a sort of a little bit of FUD that, the conspiracy theory that the whole purpose of Bitcoin, it was invented by the CIA or something, to get people used to using digital traceable money, so that when they release CBDCs, which are coming, of course, that people will already just be cool with their money being tracked. And of course, Bitcoin is different, that you can't stop Bitcoin transactions, but you can definitely trace them. And my whole thesis on Monero, going back 2 years, goes back to when the Silk Road hackers were caught. As the guys, it was one Silk Road hacker and the Bitfinex hackers. One of them was that rapper girl, Razzle Khan. They, years after their crimes, they got traced. They made one mistake, small mistakes, moving that Bitcoin around, and they got caught. They got their freedom taken away. They got their Bitcoin seized. I mean, they could have not given up the Bitcoin, and then they would have sat in jail. Undoubtedly, they said, okay, you can spend the rest of your life in jail or court, or you can give us the billions in Bitcoin, and we'll let you out in like 10, 15, 20 years. I don't know what the number was, but something, there's a deal like that happened. So yeah, they can't take your Bitcoin, but it's not going to do you much use in jail. You'd rather have cigarettes. You'd rather have cigarettes in jail to use as currency than Bitcoin, because that's just better money in prison. And so, but Monero, I reasoned that people would take notice, And then finally, what you had was a big hack that started this. $330 million of some old Bitcoin in a Coinbase wallet. Coinbase, don't ever use it. By the way, I got a friend of mine that called me up and told me that he had a really good Coinbase entry from back here, I guess maybe in April, and he was up thousands. Actually, well, he was up like 6 figures on it and wanted to brag to me. And this was, I think, on the 13th of May. And he had calls. And I said to him, dude, if you're calling me to brag, you need to be taking profit, because options, yeah, they don't like this. They don't like this right here. He is 100% less profitable than he was days ago. And I guarantee he was not even more profitable and got up here because volatility's been going off. But that's a whole other thing. But that's a rule, guys. If you're bragging, you should be taking profits. And what did I do last week? I had a bull stream. I had a Monero is the greatest stream right here at about 400. So what does that tell you? What does that tell you? Hashtag no regrets, though, because I want more, and I've been very upset that it did this and got away from me. I feel like the Bitcoin people, where they want more of their favorite asset, but yeah, they're going to be in trouble. The Bitcoin people are going to be in trouble. I mean, we couldn't. We have still got 2 days before it closes on Sunday, but that past all-time high sits there. Everyone sees it, and last week closed inside of it. This week they tried to break it again and failed. They've got a Bitcoin conference going on this week now in Vegas, and a little funny sort of almanac statistic. Every year Bitcoin goes down during the yearly conference. It kind of defies logic and everything, but it's just kind of a funny thing that happens. So anyway, GME managed to top out Bitcoin by adding to, yeah. So those have been the kind of the news that have been coming out here at the all-time high, and I see it on Twitter, because Twitter just constantly tries to get me to buy Bitcoin. Every time I sign in Twitter, even though I say not interested in this post, X tries to get me to buy Bitcoin. I think it's because I read all stuff crypto, and the algorithm thinks that that's what I want to read about. But the big thing, of course, was that DJT, Trump Media, is going to do the same thing as MicroStrategy, which, by the way, I am still, and once again, unreasonably short MicroStrategy with puts. Yeah, I loaded back up. I'm a degen. Look, my long-term target on MicroStrategy is $0. The rules of finance, the dangers of leverage, and the stupidity of putting your money into someone that has been found guilty of fraud 20 years ago, manipulating his stock. I mean, look, Tiger doesn't change his stripes. So I've been wrong. This has not been very fun at all. But I'm call me Michael Burry in 2007, and it's not yet 2008. But yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens. But I mean, if you go back, all-time high failures are one of the key indicators of just buyers not being there. Back in January, you had the same kind of situation, or more betterly, an example was the failures back in October and November of 2021. Look, people buy this to get rich, really, really rich, and you need them to throw away cares and buy with reckless abandon if you want to see higher prices. And the first thing you got to do is get it above that last all-time high. And what you want to see in that kind of situation is something that looks a little like this. It respected the high, okay? And, we could have something like this happen. You could have like a little bitty, like this. That's kind of like what we had, this past week, where it pierces above it. But then you're going to get this big, green, thick dildo bar. And once that week closes, you're good to go. Like, what are you going to miss out on? You're going to miss out on, about 18%, right? But what are you going to get if it really does the moon that they all say it's going to? I mean, if you're patient, just wait for that. I know patience, that's so hard. I mean, you're going to get what? Just off that 2020 rally, you got 180% of a gain up to that high. The next one, the first one, whatever, 150%. You gave up 18%. Are you that greedy? Well, some people might be, but that's because they're willing to take the historic at least 70% drawdown. Look, give up the 18 for confirmation and avoid this. But that's what I'm waiting for now. I mean, I was asked today by Jen, how do I buy Bitcoin? When do I buy it? Well, there's two things that I've talked about, and we'll talk about when it's relevant, which is the Ichimoku daily chart following the trend, which right now is still bullish because they're obviously both on the bullish side of the cloud. Bitcoin has not become bearish until we go on the other side. So that's back down in the low 90s. We're not there yet. But buying when you get that price and momentum outside of the cloud, that's when you do it. You sell when it comes there. Or if you want to be really, really simple, you don't want to follow that. You don't want to use any extra indicators. You take all the indicators off and you go and you set yourself a limit order at minus 70%. That's conservative, by the way, because it hasn't ever gone less than 75 before, but we're going to assume that Bitcoin's less volatile now, which it is. And we're going to put it at minus 70% of the all-time high. And then, if we make a new all-time high like we did, you just update your limit order. And eventually you're going to get filled. Now, why does this work? Well, because you've seen it happen no less than 5 times before. But this time's different. That's fine. Maybe this time is different. Well, what happens if Bitcoin goes up to, 300? Or let's say quarter million. Where's the 70% of that? Well, what if it's just 60%? What if it's just 60%? You don't think that Bitcoin can come down 60%? You haven't been in Bitcoin long enough. 60% means, I'll just get back in at 100K again. That's how you need to think about it. But I know that's not how people want to think about it. But this is the nature of the beast. But I'm cursed with having watched every single down move since $20. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe I'm just PTSD. I don't know. Maybe I've just seen it too much. Maybe I look at history too much. Maybe the rules have changed. I'm going to keep trading. And I'm going to keep doing what has worked historically because that's all that I can study. That's all that I can go on. So thanks, Jeremiah. What's up, Cocos? Right. Privacy can't be optional when it comes to Monero. Are you still in Zcash? Was that your thing, Zcash? So every time I talk about, not every time I talk about Monero, but invariably when I start talking about Monero, someone brings up, what about Zcash? And I'm like, well, what about it? Does anyone use it? So that's the kind of, I think that's what he's kind of referring to, because the Zcash debate is, yes, it has a privacy option, and it's been benefiting as sort of like kind of it's sort of benefited, I imagine, from let's see, how much has it gone up? Let's see, since the low in April, Zcash is up 63%. That's respectable. And then low April, was it April 20th? What did I do with Zcash? April 25th, we'll do April 25th. It's up. Zcash is doing pretty good. Need to figure out what that low is. But the idea, though, is that Zcash has a couple of little cool features. That people can stake it. Yeah. And it has a privacy option. It has arguably some very interesting technology. But people don't use it. They just don't. On the dark web, Monero is king. Cash is king in the real world. On the dark web, Monero is king. And that's exactly how Bitcoin started. And when there was that major hack a few weeks ago that started the whole Monero rally, about $330 million that someone needed to transfer. They transferred it from Bitcoin to Monero on about a dozen distributed exchanges, irrespective of fees, because it's not their money anyway, and they spent about tens of millions of dollars in commissions making this transfer happen. And there was just not enough Monero to go around, and you had the supply shock that everyone says Bitcoin's going to have, yet fails to do. So yeah. Do I have limit bias to re-up at 36K? I've thought about that a lot. And if and when, I'm short now, by the way, short some options and some futures going into the weekend, because now with the second retest, feel confident about it. Where am I going to take it down to? We'll take it down to a nice 50% here. But in the long term, look, this trend in Bitcoin, which people just don't think about, they don't think about in this context. It has been going on either from November of 2022, or as I cite it, using the Ichimoku strategy, I would say it was January the 18th, actually January 12th of 2023. So we're in the end of May 2025. So it's almost 2.5 years. So the Bitcoin halvening and price cycles, the longest that a bull trend has gone on in past cycles has been something like, I think, 20, what is it? I think it was like 32 months. Been a while since I looked at it. But basically October is kind of the maximum. October this year, from November of the bottom, is the longest that we could possibly kind of expect, unless, of course, it could go longer, but that's the most it's ever gone before. And so, like, what are you trying to do here? What are you going for? Like, how much more time do you have left? I mean, you're 2 years into this. Like, how much more do you have? Well, of course, the answer is more. If you want, this thing that you bought to just go up without you actually doing anything extra, just buy this one thing and you'll be super rich. I just don't know if that works. I don't know if it kind of works if you've got, a bunch of corporate Ponzi's doing some share dilution to buy it. It seems like it should work. But then why is it not? I mean, it's working back at an all-time high. Who knows? But I would rather get really bullish after everyone says it's dead. It's just like Monero. Monero, when I don't think anyone, I had discussions with people on my Discord about it, because this dip right here back in February 2024 is when Binance delisted Monero, and for just the whole platform, no more Monero, because I thought when this happened, Monero was down like 32%, and of course I had a pretty big stake in it, and I was like crap, did they hack it? Did they break the privacy? And then I looked into it. It's like, well, we banned it because we can't track it. It's too private. And I was like, oh, Monero is working as intended. Buy more. But everyone was like, it's dead. And so now everyone's like, Bitcoin, governments are going to buy it. Companies are going to buy it. Donald Trump's going to buy it. All-time highs are not made on bad news. They're made on very good news. So I didn't answer your question. Am I going to buy it at 30? Well, the one thing that I kind of think would be the most ironic, and I really like the logic that sometimes the most ironic thing to happen is what tends to happen, is everyone that got super bullish, all the normies, all the ETF people that got in around the ETF. The ETF was around here back in January of 2024, a year ago. If we come back and make them nervous, that could be the most ironic thing. You see it you see people's ETF holdings double, and then it comes back to their break even, and they're like, I don't know about this Bitcoin thing. Man, that didn't work out. I don't think I'm into this Bitcoin thing anymore. Then I get interested when everyone's saying, I don't like this Bitcoin thing. It didn't work. But the problem, though, is like, if we get back there, do I buy it? See, that's when I get in my way being emotional, and I say, I don't want to buy it and then reward these people that we're talking about getting taxpayers to pump their backs. Because if we get back up to the all-time highs again from that level, then we got to go through this whole thing again where everyone's like, Bitcoin's going to take over the world. You'll be sorry. Everyone gets the price they deserve. And it's just such an annoying time right now. And I don't want to give that to them, but maybe. All right, let's see. We got a little bit of time on futures, and if you were here at the beginning, you saw that I wasn't revenge trading, but I was demanding that the market give me more for being patient, but we're at the end of the day here. So essentially, and this is what I want to talk about. And by the way, get your symbols you want to look at in the chat. I got one more teaching lesson. I want to talk about futures and volume profile, just to kind of show you guys how awesome it is. And then we'll look at your symbols. But yeah, this was a volume profile based trade, which is going to exit at about here. So from 25 down to 12, that's 8 points. Okay. Well, I took one contract at 16 and then one contract here. So anyway, why was I looking at these levels right here? That's because volume profile. And one thing that I kind of observed, I posted it in the Discord. I'll bring it up on the chart. I won't bring up a screenshot. But you guys notice this little histogram thing with the yellow and the purple and the red line? That's magic. Not really. Yes, it is. I think it's magic. But let me explain a little bit further. So a lot of people want to know when I talk about volume profile, well, how do I know what's going to be the volume profile to play? Like what's going to be the level to play? So we're going to look at a blank chart. I'm not going to put any indicators. We're just going to play with volume profile. This is the S&P 500 futures. And one of the things I try to do that I've kind of added to my my methodology is I bring up volume just so I can know where the trading day is. I could do the shading, but on the chart, but I don't feel like going to settings and changing that. So I just look at the volume, but I want to make sure that I'm analyzing the volume of the day where there's the most people trading. And what the whole purpose of volume profile is to find price levels where there was a lot of trading going on. And those are levels that it tends to respect. And so if we go all the way back to this, this basically we kind of been hanging out here, trying to make an all-time high run. This is a 30-minute chart since about middle of May. And we see where we stood coming up to here. And actually, hang on. I think it was a rally up. Sweet. There we go. Okay. So there's a lot of little mountain peaks. Okay. And the reason I shorted it today was because the highest of the peaks was about 25. And that's where it came up to at the end of the day. And so that's why I took a short off there. Only made a little bit because it's Friday afternoon. Not really going to do much. But 25 came up a little bit more to 30. And that's because of the 50%. Which is my other favorite thing. So really when these two things match up, that's money. It is. Combined confluence. And just to kind of bring it back around, that's what we have on Ethereum. So, but works in both ways. And the key I've gotten to now, I can kind of say it because I learned by teaching, and sometimes I kind of figure stuff out and I want to share it with people so that I remind it for myself. But I oftentimes are kind of like, well, I've got like a little peak right here, I've got a peak right here, and I got a peak right here. So which one do I use? Because we can't have too many levels to play around with. Well, the key thing that has happened twice this week that I want people to really start to incorporate in their volume profile drawings is, let's call it a cliff or just a big valley or a major drop off. And I'm going to explain it psychologically, sentiment wise, in a different way. But if we take basically the volume profile going back to Wednesday of last week, basically encompassing all this consolidation back to here, this big dip that we had on Friday of last week. So basically about a week and a half worth, but really kind of encompassing, all this stuff in through here. And notice how a lot of the volume, and there's a way that you can do this where it does the value area. Let's see, does it have that? There's a way we can highlight like where, like, I think the standard, like it's like a standard deviation. But I don't use that. But might want to incorporate that. Let me make a mental note for myself on that one. Width of the box. Where is that? Hold on. Value area up, down area. Let's see. No, 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 I don't want to do that. Okay, there is a way that you can do it where it kind of, yeah, I'll definitely look at Tesla in a second. But spoiler, it's going up. So let me just finish teaching. We'll start looking at symbols. Get the symbols in, please. We'll look at them. I also got some things from Discord to share that, yeah, some good stuff to look at. So if we look and we consider that, okay, a lot of the volume has obviously happened, in this area. Okay. A lot of the trading for the last week and a half has happened in this area. Obviously. And of course, the most traded is this 59.25. And you got to see that too, because, like even right in here, price kind of respected it here on Tuesday at noon, came back down and held it there at the end of the day on Tuesday. So there we have a lot of trading that happened there, sort of like messed around. They tried to keep it down there, but they traded it off of it, busted up there. We had, let me take out the 50%. We obviously had boom. You see how this level becomes like a self-reinforcing level where a lot of trading happens at it, and then that becomes the level that price responds to. Okay, so that's what we see about the POC, the point of control, the biggest one. But we got all these others that we can use too, so we don't want to throw them out, but we also don't want to get confused. Now, if you notice something, if you think about it this way, like this is the range where people have been trading. Let me draw a box instead. All right. So in this range, and because really what you start to see is you start to see fall off. Like a real big fall off down to where there's not much volume. Okay. Like there's definitely not much volume here. There's a lot less volume down in there. Okay. And so that big cliff is really going to define the last level inside this trading range for the week. In other words, if people that have traded, if people that have put a trade on, if people are in a position, what's the level they're going to defend? Because if it gets outside this, then they're going to be in trouble and they're going to stop out. Okay. So if you think about it that way, what is the level that people are going to defend and what's the level that they're going to get stopped out of? And so you might see a breakout at that level, but that also tells you where you're wrong. Because if it breaks out of this volume zone, then you're going to see a cascade of people getting out. But there's a good chance that they won't let that happen. And so this makes the levels more significant. At least that's what I think. And in practice today and then another time on Tuesday, that was another key level. And so essentially the trading day today, Friday, went from the lower end, 58.59, which was, again, this is not a forward drawing indicator. The reason I love volume profile so much is because we could draw this at the beginning of the day and it's going to tell us where the levels we need to trade are. Cheat code. Then earlier this week on a little bit lower time frame, and this is a little bit where the art comes into it a little bit, because that is a longer term volume profile. But if you're day trading, you know where let me do this again. We need to know where the shorter term levels are. So it's Tuesday of this week. Let's see. Coming on Tuesday, 9 a.m. Another thing I like to do if I'm not looking just a week is I like to look at the leg up. Okay. And again, here's our box. And then where's the last levels? Obviously, it's here. It was more like here. And it's here. So if we mark that off as the last level, what's the last level support that we can look at? What's the last level to hold? And what we can do is maybe put, very tight stop under it like that. Maybe play it back up and see if the market will give us that last leg. Because we know we can have it stop super, super tight. And even if we're wrong, I mean, I stop. But also, if you get that big move down, the harder it dips, the harder it'll rip. That's the general thesis of it. And there's still some good volatility in the market here. Slowed down a little bit, but not much. But there's still some really good trading. But you can use this on anything, any instrument at all. Tesla, because it was requested. Because Tesla, let me see if this applies. Because Tesla's level that it held several weeks ago, there were a bunch of people that kind of wanted Tesla to fail. I think I recall, hearing them talk about it. But it didn't. which is good because I very much enjoy my car that drives itself. So there are some key levels here on Tesla that it needed to hold. There was a course, and let's just go back in time. Let's use our replay feature. And by the way, I'm less mad about TradingView now. I was a little mad because I can't publish ideas anymore. Oh, you're not gonna let me do that? Oh, you asshole. Okay, now I'm mad at TradingView again because they won't only do the replay feature. So, yep, we'll look at Philip Morris, Coca-Cola, only after you tell me if you bought Kroger. Did you buy Kroger? Inside joke. We'll talk about it here in a second. So, Tesla. The last level, the last levels, as it were basically 257, which it broke through. But then, if you notice, there was this major node here at 218. And that ended up being the level. The next level would have been probably around 184, but we didn't get there. But notice how that volume profile level held it up. Now, that doesn't help us because we're already way off that 218. And it was a good reason that, Tesla was down, right? They were gonna sell the cars, they were gonna burn the cars, Reddit was gonna buy a bunch of puts and really, really show it to Elon, right? As if we haven't learned from the last decade not to bet against him, which I did, by the way, as a hedge against my shares. And well, don't bet against Elon. Just that is a trading rule. Don't bet against Elon. It just works. It just works better than trying to be smarter than this guy who's like ridiculously autistic and effective at everything he puts his hands on. Is that true? Has he failed at anything? Oh yeah, he failed to fix government spending. Smartest mind of our generation, and it couldn't be fixed. So we can all rest easy knowing that it is an unsolvable problem. Because he can get us back in space. He can make a self-driving car. He can make electric vehicles sexy. He can dig holes under, cities to make tunnels. He can put neurons into the brain and let you play Civilization 6 faster than human can. But government spending, unsolvable problem. Anyway, off politics. So the 50% level that I took a short on was the spike that it did last Tuesday the 20th, and stopped out because hey, don't bet against Elon. But it was a hedge. Back inside it now, but that's basically where it looks like it's going to kind of hang out. But it has broken it. Closed several days above it, above 351. Can I buy it now? No, because I like deep discounts. I like deep pullbacks. But it is still bullish. I think that with these signs, it's more likely to go up and down. But I can't add to my position. Just can't. Because like I want to buy stuff when it gets down around here when everyone thinks that it's going to be dead. It's just me, but bullish. So, all right. Any more symbols? Get them in the chat. We'll take a look at them. Philip Morris. Bullish. Dividend play. Cool. Man, Jen, you're getting do some kind of boring stuff. Coca-Cola. I mean, I like it. I own both Coca-Cola and Philip Morris, but just on Coca-Cola, the last time I bought it was at 50? No, was it 60 back here? And wait a minute, hold on. Wait, why don't you come and tell me about Coca-Cola back in the end of the year, beginning of the year, that 50%? No, I'm thinking about, never mind. I'm thinking about the big 50% from COVID low to here. Although that would have been a great ad. But yeah, the big COVID low, yeah, 51. That's why I thought 50. Yeah, right there. That kiss, that beautiful kiss of the 50% right there in October of 2023. That's my Coca-Cola entry. But yeah, that little pullback was pretty good. Little messy. Boring is better than losing it. What did Kroger do? Didn't quite kiss that 50% a second time, but that's 65.89 is pretty clutch. Did I not tell you yesterday? So you're playing spikes on those? Okay. All right, cool. All right, so what else to look at before we kind of close out today? Palantir, which I tried to do a put on because it last week it failed the breakout, kind of like Bitcoin did. And then I think some news came out today that Trump is going to pull them to make a database of all the American citizens, which on this face value sounds like as someone tried to get me stirred up about. But I already have a social security number. I'm pretty sure I'm in a database already. I'm not sure what this is, but I think that's the news that made it pop up. Hasn't really cleared that high yet, but what goes up must go up. So, all right. Anything else to look at? All right. Well, thanks for hanging out with me, guys. I know that the title probably might have triggered some people, but I'm trying to make money, not fillet egos. So go against the narrative, be a contrarian, and trade wisely. We'll see you next week. I'll be back.